Good afternoon, folks. We have reason to revisit Micronova evidence, and it comes from an unlikely place. Before we get into it, remember there are always resource links below the video where you can learn more. Today, those include everything about the solar micronova, how it happens, why it is triggered, and what it will mean for the Earth. Today, we're going to revisit why the solar micronova is the correct explanation for all the Younger Dryas evidence, and it comes from a new source of glass evidence from 12,000 years ago in Atacama, Chile. While I'm going to refute this video by Antonio Zamora, I like his diligence and his video. It's just that this is not from an exploding comet or an asteroid. The impactor theory cannot explain the most important evidence from that period, even though there were likely impactors. This glass is from the solar micronova, and so are the impactors. Remember, what happened 12,000 years ago was a confluence of simultaneous events, and they all show up every cycle. There are impactors and microtektite glass, as well as glass burns in sand, but there are also nova-level isotopes, often found within the glass and the fossils from that period, which modern scientists never seem to check for anymore. There are geomagnetic effects, a global volcanic uptick, and again, it is a cyclical event that happens over and over. Taking the present evidence, the glass, in nearly every nova we see out in space, oxygen and silicon are primary constituents of the blast and the resulting nebula. Silicon dioxide is sand, glass, and it utterly is expected from every nova eruption. This was some of Doug Vogt's best nova evidence, along with the nova-level isotopes embedded within it. There is simply no way an impactor, volcano, or anything but a nova event at a star could have produced those isotopes. Some of the plasma eruption congeals into larger pieces that do end up hitting as impactors, including those which have low-altitude airbursts, just as is hypothesized 12,000 years ago. But it is the totality of the evidence that tells us it's not just an impactor. That will not suffice as a hypothesis. The comet or asteroid theory cannot explain most of the evidence, actually. It can't make the nova isotopes, it can't change the planet's magnetic field, like the Gothenburg event 12,000 years ago, or any of the geomagnetic excursions on the previous cycles. It cannot create a global uptick in volcanoes, especially if it was an airburst, and it almost certainly is not going to occur over and over again on the same timeline. Basically, we have one option which can't explain all the evidence, and another option that can explain all the evidence. The glass is made by the nova event with subsequent sand melt from the nova shell impact and the impactors within it. Don't forget that the plasma impact of the nova shell would also cause phenomenal lightning discharges, which would create even more glass in sandy areas. Even modern-day lightning can make glass from sand. Essentially, every single piece of impactor evidence from 12,000 years ago can actually be explained by a solar micronova, but the majority of the total evidence from that period tells us a comet is not the answer. If you would like to know more, see the full suite of evidence on the solar micronova and the cyclical catastrophe. Check out either our summary video below or our layman's book on the subject. Subscribe, and I will see you in the morning for the daily update. Be safe, everyone.